Hey YouTube, how y'all doing today? It's Chris Cornaros here with the Cryptocurrent team, bringing you another iteration of Crypto Basics with Chris K. And today we are going to be covering a very interesting topic, and that is how you can get into brand new releases of different cryptocurrencies the first day they're publicly available. But before we get into that, I am going to do my YouTube spiel, and I want to remind everyone watching that if you're a first time viewer, make sure you click that subscribe button. That way, you get notified whenever we have new content or are going live with our cryptocurrent lives. If you like today's video, please leave a like on it. It really does help us out, gives us a jump on YouTube's algorithm, and lets us know the content that y'all want to see. Now, let's dive into today's fun content, and that is all the different ways that you can get into the hottest, freshest, newest cryptocurrency projects the first second they are publicly available. Now, there are 5 different kinds of initial offerings in crypto. You have ICO, which stands for initial coin offering. You have an IEO, which stands for initial exchange offering. An IDO, that means an initial DEX offering, a DEX being a decentralized exchange. So something in DeFi, and I can explain a little more about that later. You also have IPOs, not to be confused with initial public offerings from the stock market. An IPO in this case is an initial parachain offering. So, for example, a way for projects to list their coin, for example, on the Polkadot exchange or the Polkadot blockchain, sorry. And then finally, you also have ISPO, which stands for an initial stake pool offering. And I'll cover all of those one by one, explain what they are. So, up first, we have an ICO, an initial coin offering. So this is essentially crypto's equivalent of an IPO, an initial public offering in the stock market. And I'll just read y'all the definition before I talk a little more about it. So, an ICO happens when a company looking to raise money to create a new coin, app, or service launches an ICO as a way to raise funds. Interested investors, can buy into the offering and receive a new cryptocurrency token issued by the company. This token may have some utility in using the product or service, think Ethereum, or it could just be a stake in the project as a whole. For example, something like Helium, which we talked a lot about. All right, and this is kind of the most simple way to do it. It's the most common, I think, way of doing it. Right, you hear about it the most, where people will get into new launches. They'll be on the whitelist, and then they will have the opportunity to essentially pay in, whether that's with fiat currency or using other cryptos instead, to buy some of these tokens and hold on to them. Typically, these are going to be at way smaller of a price than you will see once they're first available on an exchange. Okay. Now that was an ICO, an initial coin offering. Up next, we have an IEO, an initial exchange offering. Interestingly enough, before I did some research, felt that this was the most similar to an IPO, right? But it's actually not, okay? It's a little more similar to a direct listing on the stock exchange, the traditional markets, or it is, or also if you go public via SPAC in traditional markets, right? Because IEOs are similar to initial coin offerings in that they are offerings of digital assets, so coins or tokens to raise capital. However, they're touted as an innovation because they're offered directly by online trading platforms on behalf of companies, usually for a fee, okay, to provide immediate trading opportunities for the digital assets. So that's why I thought it was similar to an IPO, because that in many ways is similar to how IPOs function in the traditional stock market. Up next, we have an IDO, or initial DEX offering. Now, before I break into that, let me just explain what a DEX is. So a DEX stands for decentralized exchange. This is a DeFi application, DeFi being decentralized finance. All right. And essentially the way this differs from, your Coinbase, for example, which is a centralized exchange, is a decentralized exchange is going to essentially have, all these offers available, right? People will put coins up at certain prices, right? They want to sell it at this price, and someone else will come in and say, I'm looking to buy X amount of coins at this price. Rather than having, a banker or manager kind of guarantee that this happens, the blockchain itself does that via smart contracts. And if you want to learn more about smart contracts, I do have a video on that you can go check out under the Crypto Basics with Chris K playlist. All right. And essentially, what happens is the smart contract, when someone clicks buy, will essentially automatically purchase those other coins at the price set. Okay. And that is the whole essentially way that a DEX differs. But let's get into the IDO again. So if a project is launching an IDO, it means the project is launching a coin or token via decentralized liquidity exchange. All right. This is a type of crypto asset exchange that depends on liquidity pools where traders can swap tokens, including crypto coins and stable coins. For instance, Tether, so USDT, and Ethereum, ETH, are a liquidity pair. All right. And that's just one example of how this happens, right? Is essentially a project is going to come, they're going to put their coins up, and they're looking for specific kind of liquidity pairs to buy in. So maybe they want to accumulate Tether, USDC, or Ethereum, etc. And then up next, we have an IPO, different from an initial public offering again. And this is an initial parachain offering. And this is a bit lengthier of a definition, so bear with me while I read through this. IPOs vary in a number of ways from what was previously seen with ICOs and IEOs. The most obvious distinction is the amount of transparency and flexibility investors should gain. For example, unlike the ICO boom, where investors would send cryptocurrency to teams that could easily pull the rug, stakeholders are guaranteed to regain access to their DOT at the end of each lease period. One quick note is that a rug pull or pulling the rug means essentially you have a team where no one knows their identities, or maybe even they do, and everyone invests into it, and then magically they pull all of kind of the back end, the money out, leaving investors with nothing. So not a good thing. And Morik noted, so this is from an article, sorry. Morik noted that with an IPO, DOT holders are simply lending their tokens to a team for a period of time in order for them to win a parachain slot. It's a much safer, fair arrangement for parachain teams because stakeholders regain access to their DOT at the end of the lease period. All right. So essentially, what is happening here is on a parachain, right? Like, for example, Polkadot or DOT. Essentially, these teams want access to that parachain. And to get this slot, what they're doing is they are taking or kind of like borrowing DOT from investors, using that to get their project into the parachain, and then will later return that along with some stake in the coin and project itself. And then finally, we have an ISPO, or an initial stake pool offering. And basically, it's the latest method for funding cryptocurrency projects. Instead of asking investors to buy the tokens, as in the case of ICOs, the developers ask investors to stake the tokens of the blockchain using their staking pool. For example, SundaySwap and MELD, MELD, those are two examples of an ISPO. All right. So all a little different, and I'll make sure to break it down at the end of the video for you as well. And before we kind of wrap things up here, I do want to remind you all that if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel. It really will help us out. And if you enjoyed today's content and want to see more content like this, leave a like on the video. If you have any specific questions or you want to let me know what your favorite kind of initial offering is, you can leave a comment down below or tweet at It's Me Chis on Twitter using hashtag #CryptoWithChris. But let's wrap things up now, and I'll just give a brief summary of all of them. So again, an ICO, an initial coin offering, it's the most similar to a traditional IPO in the crypto space. An IEO, or an initial exchange offering, is more similar to a direct listing or a SPAC. An IDO offers initial offerings via decentralized finance on a decentralized exchange, okay, typically using various liquidity pairs. The example I gave was Tether and Ethereum. And then you have the IPO, the initial parachain offering. It's the most transparent listing and the safest for investors because it enables them to see everything going on the blockchain. And then you also have an ISPO, an initial stake pool offering. This is also safe because it uses the staking concept to ensure there are no mass sell-offs of a coin. And that is something that can happen with an ICO. People buy in at a fraction of a cent, it jumps up to 10 cents, and suddenly everyone has sold a bunch because they made a massive profit already. And that can hamper the growth of a coin down the line. An ISPO kind of seeks to guarantee that there will be maintained long-term growth. So good for both long-term investors and the project team itself. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. Again, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts down below with a comment. And until next time, until next Wednesday, I've been Chris Cornars for the Cryptocurrent team, and I want to remind you all to stay cryptocurrent.